Hi. Today, this video, we're going to be doing a book review, and excuse the wind, but we're going to be doing a book review, and while we repot these plants here, I have my notes. We're going to be reviewing George Orwell's 1984. So first of all, let me get this out of the way. This book was published in 1949 by George Orwell. He was, this book was not specifically to talk about, how, socialism is so bad. It's not really what it's about. George Orwell himself was a democratic socialist. However, we do talk a lot about the themes of censorship, surveillance, nationalism, class distinctions, and war, and all that kind of stuff, which can be themes of any form of government at all. So there's that. Also, yes, kind of like a content warning here. I'm going to be talking a little bit about my opinions, somewhat, and not a whole lot, but just a little bit sprinkled in there. So, but mainly I'm gonna be just reviewing the book. The book itself, I would give it a 8 out of 10, maybe like an 8.5, maybe even a 9, I don't know. But yeah, I would give it like an 8.5 out of 10 or so, just because it was really easy to read through. The plot was good, the characters were good. You really cared about all the characters, even though they were sort of out of pocket. But you really did care about the characters, and they were really very cool. You wanted them to really to get through what they were going through. And overall, it was really a page turner. It wasn't anything, any very action, I would say. There was action things that happened, but it wasn't like a car chase or something like that. And a lot of it is very political, as you can imagine. But yeah, as a summary, so the back says Winston Smith toes the party line, rewriting history to satisfy the demands of the Ministry of Truth. With each lie he writes, Winston grows to hate the party that seeks power for its own sake and persecutes those who dare to commit thought crimes. But as he starts to think for himself, Winston can't escape the fact that Big Brother is always watching. So the summary of it, the basis, I'm not going to go into too into depth with it. Hey, you. Anyways, I'm not going to get too into depth of it, just in case you want to know the summary, and then there is going to be spoilers, just saying, but just in case you want to read the book, I'm not going to go into depth with the summary. So basically, Winston Winston is a guy that lives in, oh my god, lives in, oh, what are you doing? Wilson lives in Oceania, and the party rules Oceania. And the world currently, in 1984, is divided into 3 different groups. There's Oceania, Eurasia, and East Asia. And they're constantly at war with each other. And sometimes Oceania is at war with Eurasia and is allies with East Asia, or they are allies with East Asia and at war with Eurasia. Anyways, the party rules it, and there is a lot of surveillance. You have things like, you can't, go against Big Brother or anything, which is kind of like the ruler, like the king, I guess. It's more of like a concept than a person. But Big Brother rules over the party, and you have the inner party, which is like the top people. Anyways, you have the inner party, which is like the top people, people who work for the party, and then you have the outer party, which is everybody who does anything else that has to do with the party, and then you have the proles, which is like the outer people, and they really don't have to worry about anything, but they're really poor. They don't really, there's no way to get out of it. So basically, Winston works for the outer party, and he's starting to have these thoughts, and he just kind of can't get rid of. He's starting to kind of go against the party, and this is where 1984 starts off, and then it ends. And it kind of follows his journey through what he's thinking. So anyways, now that we got the summary out of the way, I'm gonna start planting and repotting stuff, and we can get on to what I wanted to talk about. Okay. So first, I'm gonna this one already has soil in it, so I'm gonna put a little bit of this in here. So anyways, about the book. From this point on, there's gonna be some spoilers, so proceed at your own risk. So the first thing I kind of wanted to talk about was this very interesting concept to me, which was what they call doublethink in the book. So like the words double and think pressed together. And basically what it is basically believing a lie, or believing something, and then believing the direct contradiction of that at the same time. So like an example of that would to be like in the book Winston, he basically rewrites history, but what they want you to think is, I'm not rewriting history, but it's possible, but I'm not, but I'm doing it, but I'm not. And that's basically kind of what doublethink is. And they go, at the end, they go through this concept of of if you think it's true, like if you believe it in your mind, then it's true because nothing exists outside of your mind, which can be true at some point, like I'll get to that in a second, but what they're trying to say is, you know, if I thought my friend over here was floating, and he thought he was floating, then he would be floating. Even though that's, like, against, obviously, the laws of nature. That's just what's true. Because, I mean, both of you agree it's true, so it's true. And they go through a lot of that. And what I mean by, like, it's okay at some point is, basically what they do throughout the book is they rewrite history, which is one of the main themes that Orwell is trying to get across to the readers. That's one of the main themes throughout the book, and he was really trying to emphasize that. So one of the things that happens is when Winston is you know, doing his thing throughout about like the 2/3 mark of the book, Oceania is at war with, I think it's East Asia, and they're allies with Eurasia. And in the middle of this festival that they're having, they call it Hate Week, in the middle of that, they announce, oh yeah, we're at war with Eurasia, not East Asia. And they're like, oh my gosh, you know, and then they don't think, oh well, this must be some sort of mistake. No. It is a mistake, not of the party, but it's of the fault of the rebellion. The rebellious citizens. They put them up to this. They said it was East Asia, not Eurasia. So, without a beat, they go and say they're at war with Eurasia. And, basically, in Winston's mind, that's, you know, obviously that's weird because, you know, just 2 seconds ago they were at war with East Asia. But even though he remembers that, that's not the case anymore. Oh, that's a spider. Stupid spider. Anyways, he remembers that in his own mind, and he knows that he's right because he can remember that. You know, he knows that, you know, they were previously at war. They were previously at war with East Asia because he remembers that they were at war with East Asia. Even though nobody else seems to remember it, they were always at war with Eurasia. No, he remembers it as they were at war with East Asia, and then they changed it. So, and one of my favorite quotes in the book, I can't remember like exactly like word for word what it is, but it's like, even if you're a party of one, you're not insane. And that's kind of like what he's talking about, is even though he seems like he's the only one that remembers that, he's not crazy. So, but in the end, you know, it doesn't really work out for him, but we'll get to that. So, yeah. And kind of like how doublethink ties into that is, you know, how can you believe, you know, that that all truth lies in your own mind, but at the same time your memory can fail you. You know, so that's like kind of the very concept of doublethink. And a lot of the things that I kept coming to was, yeah, like, a lot of things that Winston in the book kind of kept coming to when talking about the paroles. They kept coming to the concept that they're kind of too stupid to revolt against the party because they don't really have any concern with it. And that's very, and it may seem really harsh, but it's all laid out perfectly in the book. It's kind of like hard to explain. They go through like a lot of process of what exactly they're talking about when they mean the paroles are too stupid. They don't mean like, oh, like they're literally dumb. It's just that the party has all of their bases covered so well that it's literally impossible for them to even think about revolting. Building on that, another thing that I think was interesting was the fact that if the paroles were so brainwashed, should I say, that it made it pretty much impossible for them to revolt, and the inner party, the higher ups, were too brainwashed to also revolt, then the middle class, the outer party, that was their weak part, I feel like, because they were policed just enough, but given just enough freedom to where their mind could roam, and they were just smart enough. They weren't smart enough to be in the inner party and to be completely devoted to the party, but they were just smart enough to be in the outer party. And the outer party ends up being pretty much their weakest link, in my weakest link, in my opinion, because of that reason. And they get rid of them by monitoring them so much and bringing them to bringing any thought crime partakers to the Ministry of Love, where they basically torture them and then make them believe in how good the party is. They basically, what they say in the end is like, they make you fall in love with Big Brother and then they kill you. So I think it's like one of the most harshest forms of torture by doing that. It's really depressing, and I'm gonna have to get a new bag of soil. But anyways, yeah, that's basically the whole reason why they do it. It's because they can't have any martyrdom. So they just say, you know, we can't have any martyrdom. You have to truly believe that you love Big Brother in order to die. So, yeah, that's sad. Let's see, what else? Oh, okay, yeah, so, I thought this was very interesting. You know, you think about, like, so George Orwell refers to, the style of government that the party has is INGSOC, which is English, socialism in Newspeak, which is basically their language. It's like two words put together, so you don't have any room for very eloquent and artsy words. That's basically what it's for. But shit. I don't know. But yeah, that's basically what it's for. is to take out all those really nice words so people don't use them anymore. Anyways, what was I saying? Oh yeah, so Orwell refers to the basically the style of government as Ingsoc, English socialism, and I think that's where people kind of get this notion of, oh yeah, Orwell speaking up against socialism and communism, and no, that's not necessarily the case. It's just the aspects of it, and not even aspects of socialism, aspects of any government, really. Any government that is so authoritarian and so just stuck on policing their people just for straight up power, straight up. And, people will say, oh, that's what it was like in, communist Russia, etc., etc. And I think people forget to realize that it happened a lot of other places. I was not just a communist country of any sort, but literally anywhere else these characteristics of the party can be found. I was recently reading in my history book about the Aztecs, and I don't mean to I don't mean to say this in any derogatory way, but they had kind of that kind of thing going, and because they would sacrifice their people, they would do a lot of these things that were in characteristic towards the party. And if you want to learn more about it, I suggest you go read about it, because I just had that thought as I was reading, and it went in my head. Everything that I was reading went in my head and out the other ear. In one ear and out the other ear, yes. But it was very interesting because, it doesn't even have to be a modern kind of society. It can be any society. So, yeah. Oh, okay. So, actually, let me come back to that. I'm gonna go get some more soil. I will be right back. I'm back. Had to carry a whole new thing of soil down here. And I found a mushroom in it. It's totally unopened. So that was very interesting. I wonder if it's edible. That'd be really cool. Anyways, what was I talking about? Okay. So, I thought was interesting was in, sort of going towards the end of the book, Winston kind of becomes a part of this, this radical revolutionary movement. And he's pretty excited about it. And the guy that he's in contact with, he gives him this book to read. And it basically it's kind of like a history of the world kind of thing, and why the party does what it does, etc., etc., how the party works. And when he's reading it, Winston kind of comes to this conclusion that, he already knew all this stuff. Basic thought can lead you to, know all this stuff. And so he's kind of, I feel like he was kind of bummed out about that. I think he was kind of hoping for, Lord. Anyways, I feel like he was hoping for some sort of more revolutionary kind of train of thought there. Jeez. But yeah, and then when he gets captured, by, by the party and gets taken to the Ministry of Love, he starts to learn a lot of other important things. Gosh, I got out my shoe. About the party. He starts to learn why they do things. And I thought why they did things was so really interesting. Because it wasn't about, oh, this is like the best for humanity. They literally like straight up said, you know, the reason why we do this is because we want power. That's it. That's period. Like, there is no, you know, noble reason why we do things. We just do it. Because we want to. And I thought that was very interesting. Because, you know, they started saying, well, you know, all these past, I wonder, do you like it? All these past societies, what they haven't learned from is the fact that they need to own up to what they're doing. They need to cover all their bases and own up to what they're doing. It isn't about, you know, this is what's best for humanity. It's about power. And I think, like, Winston is so kind of blown away by that, and I don't blame him. It's kind of alarming. And yeah, and what I put on my notes was like, just when you think you understand it, you don't. And I kind of thought the same way going in. I kind of thought, well, you know, they're going to say, oh, it's for like the betterment of humanity, and they didn't. And there's some things that I still don't understand. It's like what they did. I caught like a lot of it. Some of the things I kind of didn't get. So when I thought I really just understood it all, you know, there's a lot more to it than you think. Okay. So another just going back into the relationships of the people in the story. One of the things that I thought was very cool was not very cool, it was kind of sad, the relationship between Winston and O'Brien. O'Brien is the guy that Winston thought that he could really trust. He thought he could really talk to him, and he was very, he really looked up to O'Brien. He was from the inner party, and he ends up being the thought police, agent of the thought police, and basically he pretends to be a part of the revolutionary group, and he ends up basically turning Winston in and torturing him in the Ministry of Love. And right up until like the end, Winston still sees O'Brien, even though O'Brien is completely torturing him, he still sees O'Brien as a good person. Or not even really as a good person, as to just someone to confide in. I thought it was very strange, in the first place. Let's see. I think that one is okay. Okay, I'll tell you what. Anyways, I thought that was very weird, and sort of odd, but then I started thinking about that, and I was like, other than Julia, which was kind of Winston's girlfriend, he never really had anybody else to talk to. And because Julia, she never really understood why he would say the things about the party that he did. Julia was a revolutionary too, but she wasn't. She, as Winston kind of put it, as she was really only concerned about the party when it came to things about herself. So it didn't matter that the party was rewriting history. It only mattered when she just knew it was bad, and it only mattered when it really pertained to herself, when it affected her in any way. And Winston was really hooked on the fact that the party would edit the past and edit history. And she kind of didn't understand that. And I feel like O'Brien to him was someone who did understand that, even though he didn't think it was wrong, even though he didn't really even have an issue with it. He just kind of understood it, if that makes any sense. Get you in there. There you go. And I thought that was just really sad. I mean, Winston never had anybody to talk to like that. It was very depressing. But I mean, and he had to confide in someone who wasn't even on the same side as him. And yeah, that's kind of what I thought was really sad about that. Let's see, press that down a little bit. Okay, yes. Now for you. See, look, this one making a little baby here. So cute. Okay. Yeah, I kind of went over that. Another thing that I thought was pretty cool was, I don't know, should I print this kind of like in a line, or should I think I'm gonna do like a triangle like I did that other one. Anyways. Another thing that I thought was interesting was the role of, kind of like the reason why Julia and Winston got in their relationship in the first place. Because I mean, Julia said that she loved him, and I think that they loved each other. But it was also an act of revolution, because, and yeah, it was an act of like revolution, because being human was not something that you did. Being human was a revolutionary act. It was not something that was allowed in any way. Oh, there's part of the mushroom. Boop. But I think that's kind of one of the reason why they did it. And in the end, gosh, I thought the end was so sad. And it really makes you think about the theme of like love conquering all. You really start to think about, does it really? Because the end is kind of about Winston betraying Julia, not in the way that we think of betrayal as in like, oh, she did this. No, I mean, that wasn't about it. It was kind of throwing her under the bus and saying, take her, not me. and that was like kind of the one thing they didn't want to do, and that was what they did in the end. They both did. And once they got out of the Ministry of Love and got back into society, they did see each other momentarily, and they knew that since they did that, they don't love each other anymore. And I thought that was really sad, but it's also kind of true, because like if you wish, you know, that kind of relationship, you know, or any love of any kind, you, in your head, you're like, oh yeah, I wouldn't betray them. I wouldn't tell them to kill that person over me. I wouldn't say that, but you kind of would. And I thought that was just really sad, because it's kind of true, you know. And it kind of like goes against your like your mind. It's saying like, because even now I want to say, well, I wouldn't do that, but would I? I don't know. So that's it was kind of a tough thing to think about. Oh, okay. Another thing, is the whole book, you think, you know, Winston has this really foolproof argument against the party, but when he's getting tortured and he's talking to O'Brien about like why the party does things, he's coming short of all of his arguments. He presents them really well still, but it's almost like they have an answer for anything. They've kind of figured it out. And that's just really sad to me. And then basically the only argument that Winston has is it doesn't feel right. That's literally it. You know, all logic would point towards, you know, the party being the best thing in the world, but the only reason why Winston holds back is because it doesn't feel right. It just kind of goes against what he feels. And I think that's a very valid, even though, you know, a court of law that probably wouldn't hold up, but I think that's a very valid argument. It's just, it doesn't feel right. So that's a good reason why not to do anything. But to O'Brien, it's not. Anyways, yeah, the ending, I thought it was very interesting, especially like at the end of the book. They talk a lot about, oh, okay, no, I don't think I'm gonna. Talks a lot about, oh, will the party ever end? And I honestly don't know. I mean, there's gotta be some point where everybody just kind of collectively is like, this doesn't really feel right. You know, it'll overstep some sort of boundary. But at the same time, it's like, their bases are too well covered, you know? They've got everything figured out too well. So there really is no going back. Even though, you know, even though I saw how the book ends, and I still kind of hope, it will end at some point. The brutal reality of it is it probably won't. I mean, they've got all their bases covered too well. It's sad. I hope it doesn't rain. And finally, let's see. I think that's kind of it. I don't know, it's a very sad book. The only reason why I gave it, I'm just gonna give it a 9 out of 10. Hey, Oob. I'm gonna give the book a 9 out of 10. Because, the only reason why I'm giving it a 9 out of 10 is it was completely good. But there was like this one part in it, where he's reading the book, and it kind of got kind of slow, because it was talking a lot about like the theory and like the reason why the party does war, and I started to kind of not pay attention, just because I got like slightly bored there, but the entire rest of the book is good, so I recommend you read it, and yeah.